I never saw First Blood when I was growing up. My first experience of the Rambo character was seeing First Blood Part 2 as a teenager, where he frees a bunch of POWs in a Vietnamese camp, killing scores of enemy soldiers in the process. I actually looked it up. Apparently the body count in First Blood Part 2 was 75. So when I sat down to watch First Blood for the first time when I was in my 20s, I expected something similar. Sylvester Stallone violently murdering hordes of his enemies in the name of war and glory. Instead, what I saw was a damaged and fragile Vietnam veteran being driven to desperation by an abusive and short-sighted small-town police force.
I'm starting to dislike you.
First Blood was a much more solemn and substantial story than I was expecting, with a good deal of emotional weight. The biggest surprise of all was that only one person died in the whole film, and it was entirely accidental. I actually had a similar experience with the Rocky series as well. The first one I saw was Rocky IV, which may well be the silliest and most over-the-top entry in the franchise. And I saw the first Rocky much later, expecting another dumb boxing film but getting something much more. It's just a little bit of an odd coincidence that I had the same experience in two separate Stallone-led film franchises. Enough of Rocky though, back to Rambo. First Blood's the story of Vietnam veteran John Rambo drifting around the Pacific Northwest trying to reconnect with an old war buddy who he soon finds out has died of cancer caused by exposure to chemicals in Vietnam. Rambo continues aimlessly drifting and is picked up by local sheriff John Teasle, played by Brian Dennehy, who drives him to the other side of town and sends him on his way, telling him that the town of Hope doesn't want his kind, even if it's just for the time it takes to have a meal. After being dropped off, John turns right back round and begins walking back into Hope. So Rambo ends up getting arrested and is treated incredibly poorly at the station, triggering an episode of PTSD during which Rambo escapes the station and heads into the nearby forest to hide. A small-town police force engages in an overzealous attempt to hunt him down, but their initial eagerness gives way to fear when they realise what they're up against. While there is some great action in First Blood, the film's power and impact is down to something entirely different than just John Rambo being a badass super soldier. There's a distinct emotional core to the film, and the violence and mayhem is treated in a sombre way rather than glorified and ostentatious. For example, when Rambo deals with the police officers pursuing him in the woods, we see exactly how terrified and out of their depth they are in this situation. And while it's not possible to actually be on their side thanks to their prior rough treatment to Rambo at the police station, we don't exactly revel in their subsequent injuries at Rambo's hands either. In fact, it's distinctly unpleasant, with the injuries all appearing to be extremely painful, especially the officer who steps into a booby trap made of multiple sharp, pointed pieces of wood which deeply embed themselves into his legs. The careful attention given to their cries of agony and shouts for help amplifies this unpleasantness as well. Juxtapose this with the previous sequence where Rambo is chased further into the woods by the officers and the dogs. That one seems more exciting, with the audience wondering how Rambo might escape and the officers perhaps not treating the whole affair as seriously as they should, almost like it's a hunt or a war game.
Did we go deer hunting up here last year?
Yeah, I got a couple bucks last year.
At this stage, neither the police officers or we, the audience, are aware of exactly what Rambo is capable of, but we soon find out.
I could have killed them all. I could have killed you.
The death of the police officer Galt, who was Rambo's chief tormentor, does not revel in any gory details. Galt falls from a helicopter while trying to shoot Rambo. It's extremely quick and we're only shown Galt's fall from the helicopter, not the undoubtedly gruesome landing. We see his bloody corpse lying on the rocks in the aftermath, but are spared the more unpleasant details of the impact itself. The quick and largely unseen nature of the death, along with the audience's perception of Galt as a loathsome bully.
You don't buy this thing, right? I swear to God, I will kill you.
As well as the accidental nature of his death and the fact that Rambo's only acted in self-defence, all contribute to a perception of blamelessness for Rambo, and further fuels the feeling that the continued aggression against him from the police officers is entirely unwarranted. The police force itself is not portrayed as entirely barbaric, however. While they are shown to treat Rambo poorly to some extent at the station, it's only Galt who can be said to be especially nasty and taking pleasure in his actions.
That's okay, Warren. Don't worry about the soap. He's tough. Just shave him. Dry.
With the others ranging from indifferent to reticent, although all are complicit in the abuse and none do anything to stop it. The closest thing to help Rambo receives at the station is an officer who tells Rambo that going along and doing as he's told will be the best option for him. While sympathetic to his plight, this officer offers Rambo no real help.
How blind are you? Can't you see this guy's crazy?
Can't you see I don't give a shit?
Rambo should never have been arrested, has been treated extremely poorly at the station itself, setting off episodes of PTSD, and only wishes to be left alone. On the other hand, he's attacked some officers in escaping the station, and he's played a part in the death of another officer, however much the audience may feel that was deserved or an appropriate action, so we can understand why the police would continue to pursue him after he escapes. It's clear who's in the wrong, the small-minded police force, and who's right, Rambo, who just wanted to pass through in peace. The fact that the police force's motivation to chase Rambo can be easily understood by the audience, even if they don't agree with it, helps the film become less of a good versus evil cartoon and much more fully fleshed out. First Blood does much work to generate sympathy for Rambo and shed light on the horrors he and many other young men would have faced in Vietnam. For example, at the beginning of the film when Rambo's trying to track down his old army buddy Delmar, he shows a photo to a woman and explains that the man he's looking for is in the back of the photo because he was so large that he would have taken up the full frame anywhere else. The woman explains that Delmar's now dead, that he withered away to nothing following a bout of cancer he brought back from Vietnam.
Delmar's gone.
What time will he be back?
He died.
What? Died how?
Cancer. Brought it back from Nam.
There are also the short flashback sequences to Rambo's time in a POW camp, emphasising what a horrible time he's had. He's unable to escape it even back in his home country. Rambo may not have taken home a physical illness like Delmar, but he's constantly mentally tormented by his experiences in Vietnam. I can't really imagine anyone other than Sylvester Stallone in this role. He wonderfully portrays a tortured and mentally anguished man who's been backed into a corner by an aggressive and antagonistic small-town police force. I always find his eyes and face to have a forlorn, sombre quality in this film and a quiet sadness. He's entirely believable both as a super capable and relentless soldier thanks to his physique and how he moves on screen, but also, and more importantly, he's able to convince us of the emotional and mental damage that has been wrought on this poor ex-soldier. He's convincing throughout, but his shining moment has to be his heart-wrenching speech near the film's end.
And I come back to the world, and I see all those maggots at the airport, protesting me, spitting, calling me baby killer and all kinds of vile crap.
That we can sympathise with and root for a man who's so adept in violence and who demonstrates that violent capability against the police is testament to the performance of Stallone and how the story unfolds. While it sometimes may seem a little far-fetched, such as with Galt bordering on cartoonishly evil, or how frighteningly well prepared Rambo is in every physical situation that presents itself, the overall feeling I get from the film is one of realism and grit, especially in an emotional sense. If you've ever thought about watching First Blood but been put off by the Rambo series' reputation for blood and violence, I would urge you to reconsider and get this one watched.
Don't push it, I'll give you a war you won't believe.